What's on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering, and some very interesting developments in the chopper pilot saga. We all know the terrible thing that happened with the passenger jet being taken out of the sky by a pilot who was flying 200 feet too high. We don't know if that helicopter had a mechanics issue, an altimeter issue. We do know now, based on some last second flight data, the passenger jet did try to pull up at the last second, but you're not going to move that thing that quickly. This isn't a fighter jet. It's a passenger jet. Over the weekend, there was a lot of weird pressure going on around why the Army had refused to identify the female trainee pilot of that Blackhawk helicopter. Now, whether or not you choose to believe in them, that's up to you, but I'm going to present to you some pretty curious information being surfaced around the internet. Now, the article now, to be clear, they have now released the name. They have released her name, and by all measure, regardless of the stuff they've found out that we now know, I didn't see anything, but you guys let me know. So it started out with Army refuses to identify the female pilot in the DC collision. The Army is refusing to name the female pilot on the military helicopter that collided with the passenger jet flying into Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport on Wednesday. In an announcement on Friday, the Army, which had already disclosed the names of the other two soldiers in the chopper, said that the woman's family requested her identity be withheld from the public. Now, I don't think you actually have that right, especially since you're the one responsible for the loss of 72 lives, or whatever that number was. I don't think you get to make that request. Whether or not it was a mistake, people make mistakes driving their cars every day. If they do something horrible, they don't get to, say, hey, don't put my name in the paper. So her family doesn't have that right. So I don't know if I believe that. At the request of the family, the name of the third soldier will not be released at this time. The unidentified soldier was an experienced pilot with more than 500 hours of flying experience. Again, 500 hours in a helicopter is a lot. It's not that much for a plane, but usually, flights are short in duration. I'm not saying it's a ton, but it's not like she was totally inexperienced. Obviously, her flight instructor also shares some significant amount of the blame, unless the altimeter was broken, unless there was a problem with the equipment, because the flight instructor is supposed to keep that helicopter under 200 feet, and the collision happened at nearly 400 feet. The Army on Friday had formally identified Staff Sergeant Ryan Austin O'Hara and Chief Warrant Officer Andrew Lloyd Eves as the two other service members that were on the helicopter when it went down in the crash in the Potomac River. At the press conference Thursday, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth described the crew of the UH-60 as fairly experienced. Eves, the instructor of the pilot on the flight, is reported to have over 1,000 hours of flight time. Kazoil further dismissed claims that DEA policies were to blame for the crash, something that President Trump suggested. Now, maybe it had something to do with the ATC, but we now know that ATC had multiple times, in multiple occasions, told them about the plane. Both pilots had flown this specific route before at night. It was not something new to either one of them. Now, remember, when you're flying at night, you're looking through NVs or goggles. And a lot of people who have done this describe it as looking through two toilet paper rolls or through straws, essentially, to see. That's why that ceiling is so important. As long as they'd stayed under 200 feet, they would have been fine. They would have passed 150 feet below the jet. Everybody would have been fine. The mid-air collision, of course, we know took the lives of 67 people plus these 3 troops. Now things are getting pretty curious. Well, let's consider the conspiracies and controversies thickening. Part-time Blackhawk Captain Rebecca Lobach whose name was being withheld, while her family completely scrubbed her social media accounts. Anti-Trump Biden White House team member. This looks not great. Now, if she's a Biden, White House staffer, and she didn't like Trump, I don't think she wanted to crash on purpose. But it is odd that they might want to
American Airlines plane
might want to take over this. I don't know if that much is true, but we do have some images. They didn't withhold Rebecca Loebach's name to grieve. They kept it a secret while they scrubbed her social media. Here she is at the White House. Nothing wrong with that picture. Nothing wrong with this picture. Here she is at some sort of pride event. Or here she's pictured with people who are in pride clothes. Again, did they want to do that? I don't know. Whoever did this one did a really good job. Often things can be dug up. This time, it's like she never existed. That is odd. People are obviously reacting to this, saying, why are you digging this up? Blah, 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 blah. I don't know. I do think it's curious. You do say here, Army helicopter was warned about American Airlines planes twice, with final alert coming just seconds before the crash.
American 3130, go around, turn left in 250, climb maintain 3000. Black Check 3, can you return to base? What? Black Check 3, proceed directly to Glebe. I need you to land. I need you to land immediately. Can you go to Dulles for a few minutes? Okay, Muscle 1-3, I need to have you exit the airspace. Can you go to Andrews? Black Check 3, do you have any kind of searchlight or maybe anything on board that would help shed some light at the east end of the field?
Oh, this is after the crash. So, at 8:48 p.m., 12 seconds after the second air traffic control tower alert, the helicopter and passenger plane ended up colliding. So, ATC, even though it was understaffed, did their job. You know what I mean? If he was looking at the right airplane, he wouldn't have hit them. Retired National Transportation Safety Board member Scott Dunham told the Washington Post they were miles apart. That resolution literally takes seconds. Flight path data shows that another plane behind American Airlines was about 11 miles from the helicopter. So they were looking at the wrong chopper. Again, you see Blackhawk did not follow air traffic controller's route before DC plane crash. This is something that, we basically knew early on. Now, Rebecca Loebach's ID'd as a female soldier inside the doomed Blackhawk during the DC crash. Here's a picture of her. Again, women can be pilots. My wife's a pilot. She didn't receive any DEI training. She did the same training as anybody else. Now, it's interesting that this one was withheld, though. You know what I mean? Last month, she escorted Ralph Lauren through the White House when he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. USA reporter and Army vet Davis Winke credited Loebach as instrumental navigating the hardest periods of his personal life during their time together at University of North Carolina. I wish we'd taken a photo together. I mean, it sounds like people like this girl. Why did they withhold her name? You don't get to withhold your name. None of this indicates that she didn't love her country, didn't love her job, or that she did anything on purpose. I'm not hearing any of that. You see, pilots tried to pull passenger jet's nose up within seconds of the crash. It was too late. The American Airlines flight involved in the collision with the Blackhawk helicopter seemed to increase its pitch just before impact. Preliminary data from a data recorder recovered. So the black box says that they actually did try to, at the last second pull up. There was no way. It was just too late. At one point, very close to the impact, there was a slight change in pitch, an increase in pitch. NTSB safety member Tom Inman said, that's something that we'll get you more detail on. This finding is one of the first pieces of information that have emerged from the NTSB. Works to investigate the disaster in which 67 people are thought to have not survived. The Blackhawk helicopter was training to evacuate government officials in the event of a terrible event when the collision happened. The agency is still working to transcribe the entirety of the audio from the voice recorders, but I'm sure they're probably going to be everything's fine, holy crap, and that'll be the end of it. because that's probably what it is. The helicopter's black box voice recorder has also been recovered with no signs of exterior damage. NTSB has begun interviewing air traffic control personnel, which will continue for a few days. Now, it is curious to me, you see this, the third soldier, last month she just go to Ralph Lauren. Here, Laura Loomer shared this. Rebecca Lobach, the Biden aide who was flying the helicopter that flew into the American Airlines passenger jet this weekend, attended Pride events. The statement her family released said she was a partner. So maybe she was also LGBTQ. Rebecca was many things. She was a daughter, sister, partner, and a friend. She was a servant, a caregiver, an advocate. Most of all, she loved and was loved. Her life was short, but she made a difference in those, everybody who was around her. I don't know. Mostly straights use the term partner now. I'm not seeing how any of this makes her a DEI hire. Yeah, I still don't really see any information. I do think it's very suspicious. It's very suspicious that if they really did scrub her social media. It is curious. But there seems to be no indication. Female pilot in crash was blamed on DEI, was a top 20% Army cadet. Top 20% isn't exactly anything to write home about, but it's certainly not somebody who sucked. So, as this, we probably kind of put a pin in this. There doesn't seem to be, there is some suspicion if they really did scrub their social media. You see that this was reported by a few different people. I think Financial Times wrote this. Or Economic Times wrote, the cause, they deleted Rebecca Lobach's social media accounts before releasing her name. It wasn't to grieve, one user claimed. They didn't withhold her name to grieve. They kept it secret while they scrubbed her social media. Another suggested. Right-wing commentator Lauren Loomer further fueled speculation, claiming that she was a Biden aide who attended Pride events. So yes, DEI was very much in the crash. Trump was right. She wrote, implying Lobach's orientation played a role. Another post referred to as a part-time pilot, alleging her family had scrubbed her anti-Trump social media posts before the announcement. I mean, I've seen no evidence of that, so how would you know? She was a PIC, pilot in command, with 450 plus hours. Maybe she was part-time. That's still a good amount of hours. As of everything right now, it looks like a mistake to me. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. You think that this is going to develop anymore? You think we're going to find out any more information? Let me know. Hope you were informed by this video. If you were, please do leave a like on it. Make sure you subscribe or follow down below, and we'll talk to you again real soon.